Hey guys, Tim here, Big Dog Forge. Welcome back. It's good to see you in the shop. So this time we're going to try to make some Damascus jaw harps. And I've done some research on these things. And years ago when I was a kid, living in Omaha, Arkansas, got population 63. There was a little village kind of a thing nearby, tourist attraction kind of thing. There was a blacksmith there that made jaw harps. And I don't know if they were good or not. I remember hearing them play them, and it sounded okay, I guess. But it's something I've always wanted to try. And I know these things are really technical, and there's a lot that goes into them to get them to make sound. And there's a lot more that goes into them to get them to make good sound. And I'm just going to shoot for making sound. So we're going to see how this goes, and stick with me. It should be fun. All right, guys, take a look at this, and we'll talk at the other end of this thing. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, we're going to use up what's left of the Jelly Roll Damascus, and this is left over from when we built the Duresta ice pick. And for some reason I was having a little bit of trouble welding this handle onto this thing. We're going to get it under scrappy, and we're going to draw this thing out, and we're going to go about 5/16 of an inch, a little over a quarter. That'll give us some room to grind it down. Now we're going to be doing two of these, so we've got another piece of Damascus that's just straight layered scrap left over from a project, and we've got the jelly roll, which is this guy, and then the other one we're going to do a twist in it, so we get a little bit of a twist pattern. Now this guy we are just going to leave it full on square and then grind the arms at the mouthpiece into shape towards the end, and the other one we're going to forge into shape before we twist it. And I'm going off pictures that I've seen, some research I've done on the internet, just trying my best to follow guidelines that I've kind of figured out by just watching others talk about these things. There's no real how-to out there. There's a couple of individuals that build them, and they kind of show how they did it online a little bit, but not in great detail. So there's a lot of parameters that you have to sort of meet to get these things to work correctly, from what I understand. And what I'm doing is I've got this little wooden block with a magnet on it. One of my awesome subscribers suggested that I do that. Keep my fingers cool so I don't grind my fingernails off. So I'm grinding this thing down, 1/4 inch square. And that's what we're going to start with. And then we're going to forge down our straight layer Damascus, and we will hand forge the ends down into some tapers. Now all of these things are built differently. I mean, there's a bunch of manufacturers out there, and there's supposedly good ones and bad ones, and there are professional harp players out there in the world who spend a bunch of money to have them made for them. These are no way going to fall into that category, but they're apparently quite difficult to make them come out just right. There are people that study for years on end to make these things and to make them correctly. So kind of tells you where I'm at here. I'll be lucky to get any noise out of them, but we're going to try our best. You always like a challenge. Alright, so we're just straightening, plenishing, making sure that we get these things as close as we can. And we are going to do quite a bit of grinding on these, but we want to get them as close as possible. And I actually have about I don't know, 1/16 of an inch after I twist this, and then square it back off to play with in grinding. So I left myself a little extra material on this one so that I could grind all those twists out and get that pattern to come out in the Damascus. So I searched the internet for Damascus jaw harps and could not find anything. There's a young man in the Ukraine who put out a video a year or so ago, and he is forging these things, and he takes it very seriously, and he's striving to build the best harp in the world. This is quite a big deal to some folks, and it's some of these guys are very awesome when they play these things. Until I started researching this, I had no idea. I thought they were something you bought at the hobby store, and come to find out there is an entire culture. Of course, it's, as I'm reading about them, it's one of the oldest instruments on the planet. It comes in a variety of shapes and sizes, and every culture in the world has a name for it. Kind of a different name. And I'm using my calipers here, just to, my dividers, whatever you want to call them, my compass, just to check. And I've got it set at 1/4 inch. And I'm double checking it against the roll there. And it took a lot of time to make sure that these came out, even all the way around. Now this one that you're seeing is the Jelly Roll Damascus. You'll notice that the ends are not tapered. I'll grind those after it's built. And I'm sectioning everything off so that I can bend these. And I kind of came up with an angle that I wanted to bend them to on the ends, and then I'll just form them around a pipe. Now most of these that you see on the, the body end, I guess, they're fairly small, but the ones I saw made when I was younger, when I was a kid, had a real large end on them. So I'm just going to sort of copy what I saw. And I don't know how it affects the sound. I don't know how it affects the play. I don't know how much more difficult it's going to be to hold. I just want to use up as much of the Damascus as possible, and this is the easiest way to do that without wasting any of it. So I'm using a torch here rather than throwing them into the forge. I can isolate the heat. I can get the bends just where I want them, and I can cause a minimum of scale on these things, because once they're bent into shape, I've got a lot of sanding to do to get the vice marks out of them, and any scale that does build up off of them. And once I grind them, I'll have to sand out the grinder marks, that kind of thing. So I'm trying to minimize the work for myself. And this worked pretty well. And this particular harp, when I bent it around the pipe, it didn't come out exactly around, and I had to work on it a bit. But with the horn of the anvil and all that, I was able to get that into shape. So you saw me bending that wire around the pipe. What I did is I just created that angle so that I could try to get those angles bent as close as possible before I bent the body around the pipe to make it round. Like I said, I wanted to minimize the work as much as possible, and scaling and all that sort of thing. So, and this guy actually took a couple of heats to get it to go around there. And Jelly Roll Damascus was a little tougher than the layered Damascus. I was able to get it. There you go. That one's the second one. That's the twisted Damascus. And I was able to get this one to go in one heat, I believe. I think I had to heat it up a little bit more just to straighten it out, but it was a little easier. I don't know, maybe it's just because I had a little experience by then. I was able to get out of my way a little bit. There we go. And there she is. Now that's the twisted Damascus one. And that's the one we forged the ends on. And then the edges on the inside of these arms that come out that the reed fits into, you have to make them as sharp as possible on top, apparently. That's an important thing, and have them lined up. The reed vibrates past them, and the sharper they are, the easier they cut the air, and the more volume you get out of them, the more crisp sound. Alright, time to make some reeds. Now what I'm going to do is use some bandsaw blade material, and it's thicker than what I need. I want to take these things down to about 0.025, and this stuff is about 0.04 right now. So there was a lot of sanding and checking with a micrometer and taking it slowly so I didn't overdo it, and I got them pretty close end to end. And I left these a little thicker than what I'd read about online because they are not spring steel, they're a high carbon steel. So when I get done with them, I'll have to make sure that they're still hard and springy enough to actually work. And for the two harps, I used two different types of bandsaw blade. One was a metal cutting blade, and the other one was a wood cutting blade. And they were both about the same thickness. And I'm just filing in the notch for the back end of the reed to fit in. There was a lot of filing and checking and filing and checking. And that reed needs to be as close as it can get to those arms and the insides of those without actually hitting them. And my gaps are not probably the greatest. My first attempt here. We got them into some ferric chloride. Get that pattern to come out. Not too bad. The reed fits in there pretty well. We got our gaps pretty tight. So this is the other guy. And this was the first reed that I staked into him, and I actually ended up taking this reed back out. It was way too stiff, and you would play the thing and it would just vibrate your head. It was just amazing. But I was able to get it back out. But this is how I basically peened them into place. And they weren't staying to my satisfaction, so later on, and I didn't show this, but later on I actually silver soldered them into place. Now I don't know if that's something that's done. I've seen pictures of them that have been screwed together and crimped together, and they make sockets and wedges, wedge them together. So I had silver solder available, and I was able to re-temper the reeds, so it wasn't a big deal, and they came out just fine. There wasn't too much heat on the whole thing. So heating up the reed at the end to bend a trigger into it. Yeah, I'm learning all this technical stuff, right? And we'll just put a little curl at the end there, something to rub your finger against. There we go. And like I said, I showed a mishmash of both of these being put together. And once it's all together there, before I put it in the ferric chloride for the final time, I'm just sharpening up those edges. And I was able to bend that in a little bit to get it a little closer to the reed. Now this needs a little more work, and I did work on them to bring them in a lot closer than that. Those gaps are pretty heavy in that one. Alright guys, there you go. So, Damascus jaw harps. And I made two of them because they were experiments and I didn't know what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. And they both came out okay. and I use different material for the reeds in them, and they have a little different sound between the two. I'm not good at this, so I'm going to be a big dumb goof here for a minute. Enough of that one. There you go. Like I said, I don't know how to play these things, but I can make noise. So anyway, there you go, guys, and hope you enjoyed this one. It was a little bit different, and I have never seen anybody make Damascus jaw harps before, so I thought that that would be kind of fun, kind of cool. And if you know anything about these things or know where a guy can learn how to play them, that would be cool too. All right, guys, so thanks for stopping by Big Dog Forge. Really appreciate it. And all my new Patreons out there, you guys are awesome. And I got some keychains out, but I'm still missing a few patrons. So if you're a patron of mine and you're seeing this video, make sure you send me your mailing address if I haven't asked for it already. I think there's about 10 guys missing. I need to get a dog tag in the mail to you. So anyway, I'll talk to you soon, guys. And we're going to call it good. And like the video if you like what you saw, and share. So if you haven't subscribed, think about that. That'd be a good thing. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you stopping by. Take care. And as always, be safe. See you soon. Bye now.